Hey everyone, my name's Omar. I'm an artist and welcome to my YouTube channel. So last week I uploaded a video where I had everything painted out in grayscale, and this time around I felt like maybe I should challenge myself a little bit more and just jump directly with color. Now the reason why I'm making this a big deal is because lately I haven't been really painting in color like right off the bat. It's usually just in black and white. So this was definitely a challenge for me, the whole experience. And one of the reasons why I've stopped doing in color in general, just like in the beginning, it's mainly because because like when you're thinking about lighting and shadow and then color, all of these things at the same time, it can get really overwhelming, especially for me. I mean, I guess maybe sometime down the road I'll probably get good at it, but for now I'm just sticking to grayscale paintings. But anyway, so after doing last week's video, it came out really nice. So I thought maybe I should challenge myself a little bit more and just do everything in color. So what I did, instead of sketching out everything in black, I sketched out with a very dark shade of brown. That was the darkest value of brown from my reference image. And then I kind of like build up my own palette before I started doing everything. Now, as I mentioned before in the previous video, I usually like to spend a good amount of time with my sketch, is because you just have to. If you don't get your sketch right, you're gonna have trouble fixing everything down the road. And this has happened to me quite a lot in the past. So I try to spend like a good amount of time on my sketch. I don't really make it like a super detailed sketch or anything. It's pretty simple looking. But mainly I try to make sure I get all my big shapes right. Like here you see I'm not really adding any veins or anything on the muscles. It's mostly just like the shape of the arm, the shape of his torso, legs, and everything. Even on the face, I didn't really add any wrinkles or anything on my sketch. I mean, I could have if I wanted to, but I kept it simple because what happens is that it gets a little bit too distracting for me. After I'm done doing like my sketch, I like to like clean up my lines. And some people, they like to do a line art pass on top of this on a new layer, but when I'm painting stuff, I don't really do a line art. I just do like a sketch and then I just clean it up a little bit and make sure it's like neat and tidy. Now, if this was like a cartoonish piece or maybe like a comic book anime type piece, I would have probably done like a line art pass on top of it. It just depends on what you're trying to go for. If it's cell shading, then yeah, make sure you have like a line art. If it's not cell shading, if it's just a study, then I think you can just do everything in one go. I mean, some people even do everything in one single layer, and that's crazy. Now I do that as well, but I kind of like I build up my piece, and then as I'm going with it, I merge all my layers. And you'll probably see me do that on this drawing as well. I think you definitely will see me do that. Remember, I merged all my layers down. One little trick that I like to do with the hands is that I usually just draw them on the side like really big, and then I just scale them down and put them in place. It's like a little hack that I've discovered recently. It just makes things a lot easier because you all know drawing hands is like so hard. But I feel like drawing hands isn't that hard. Is it though? I don't know. Like I've never really thought about it that way. Um, I know there's so many memes out there about drawing hands and being a struggle, but I feel like it's just like any other thing in this world, right? I mean, you can't really get good at drawing characters if you don't draw characters. So it's the same thing. If you're struggling with drawing hands, just draw a lot of hands, I guess. But the one thing with me is that when I'm doing hands, I just like draw them. I don't really use those guidelines, whatever that people tell you to like make a cube first and then all that stuff. So, anyways, so after my sketch was complete, I just went right ahead with painting everything. And the reason since I had like a color palette already set out, it was really easy to like put in all the colors. So for the color palette, I just color pick from the reference image and just put them all together. Um, I try not to pick from the reference image that much, but sometimes I do end up picking a little bit because coming up with the right colors can be really hard, especially for me. Like it's just so hard sometimes. But anyways, so usually after my sketch is done, I make a layer below my sketch, and that's where I start adding all my colors. And then here I'm like zoomed out most of the time. I'm not really paying attention to the details or anything, like the small details. Is mostly keeping everything like big, working on the big shapes and the forms, making sure that it reads as like a three-dimensional subject. The one thing that I did struggle a lot was with the face, as usual. Doing realistic faces is so hard, man. Like, I can do stylized faces. It's just me trying to do realistic face that ends up being stylized, if that makes sense. And so I just tell people, hey, that's just my style. I like making like stylized faces. But then the rest of the body is like super realistic rendered up. You know what I mean? I always get caught. But anyways, this was a fun process. I mean, I was constantly picking from my color palette the different colors, and then I was painting on my drawing as well. One thing that helped me a lot is that knowing your tools, knowing what kind of brush you need to use for what, really helps in speeding up the process. The one brush that I use, I only use one brush for everything. Like, but for sketching, I use like a simple round brush, and then for all of my shading and rendering, I use this charcoal brush that I got online. By the way, all these brushes that I use, they're not my own. I downloaded them from like other resources, and they're all free. I'll put a link to my brushes in the description, and you all can check them out and support the people who actually make them. Um, but yeah, so once I was done with adding like a base shading of some sort, then I made a layer on top of my sketch layer, and that's where I started like refining my shapes a little bit more. And that's when I realized that maybe that his face is like a little bit more on the red side. So I color corrected his face a little bit, and then just started working my way through. And at this point, everything is pretty straightforward because I already have a color palette established on his face and the whole body, so I'm just like color picking from the different parts and just putting them in and blending them in. One thing that I do like to do sometimes is that I don't like to blend in all of my colors because then it ends up looking like very airbrushy, if that makes sense. I like to show my different strokes here and there, show my brush strokes. That's kind of like just personal preference. Now I know some people out there who like to like render every single thing out because they don't want it to look like it's as if it's made in Photoshop. Um, but I feel like that's just not me. So as an artist, it has always been my goal to always be better than what I was yesterday. And the one thing that I've noticed is that the progress that I've been making lately, sometimes it feels like it's not that fast. I feel like I'm a very slow learner. But then when I compare my drawings from like the year before or the 2 years before today or something, there's like a big jump that I see. Um, and that's the thing, to get good at art, you just have to be patient and you just gotta do the work. Sometimes I get super impatient as well. I think, I just want to get everything done so fast. I'm like, I just want to get good at this. I just want to get good at this. But then it just never works out. It's just patience. And many times I feel that way is because I feel like there's this pressure of so many people around me that just want me to like get a job in the game industry already. Like there's so many people out there who just have these high expectations. They're like, okay, you're so good at art, why don't you just apply for this job? You're so good at art. And I'm just like, I'm not good enough. Have you seen my portfolio? It's like nowhere near as good as these other professionals. And I've actually have applied at some game studios, but I got rejected. So yeah. So I feel like these days I'm just working on my portfolio and I'm doing these studies right now. And that's why doing studies are so important. I mean, and the reason why it's called a study is because you don't want to spend too much time on it. I mean, I only spend like an hour or two on each study. Now on this one, I think I went over 2 hours. It was mainly because there were certain parts of the body where they were kind of hard to render out, especially like, for example, like on the torso, like the abs part, since he's like crouching down and he's bent over, it was kind of hard to like figure out how his body muscles are gonna like wrap around his body, if that makes sense. But other than that, this was a very fun drawing to work on, and I'm glad I experimented. And the best thing is that you experiment stuff before committing to one single thing. And when I say experiment, I mean like, if you're only drawing characters, try drawing environments. If you're only drawing environments, try drawing some characters. If you're doing both, try drawing some props. I mean, one thing that I haven't done is draw props. I think I want to draw that someday. But yeah, I'll let you guys enjoy the rest of the video. I think I'm going to stop talking here because I don't have anything else to say. I kind of suck at talking, but before you all leave, please make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and share this video with your friends and family. And I will be back in the next one.